We're live. Welcome to the Best in Slot podcast, a Warcraft podcast by the community for the community. I'm your main host, Sparty. I'm here with my co-host, Midgettes. Hello, Midgettes. How are you this fine Sunday evening?
Doing great, Sparty. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I know we did miss a podcast last weekend, but it was last minute prep and last minute things for BFA. And, as much as I hate missing the podcast, it was really important. And, that stuff took precedence. So we missed you guys, but we are back. This is episode 38. And today we're going to be talking about the first week of the new expansion. It's exciting. It's Battle for Azeroth is here, from launching to leveling to gearing your character. There may be some spoilers, but, we'll try to be careful. But yeah, I mean, it's here. It's exciting. Like, this is it. The expansion's here.
It's here, and we've been having fun. Well, at least we've been going non-stop for the past week.
Oh, for sure. Like, it's been just go whenever you could log in.
Right. That would be the key. So before we get to all of that, are we going to listen to one of your jokes?
Yes. Yeah, I actually made up this one. This is a not stolen joke, as most of mine are liberated from other people. And this one is actually a BFA themed joke. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. What's blue and red goes round and round and round?
What?
A troll in a blender.
Oh, no.
Oh, for the Alliance. All right. So besides, bashing on those trolls, and of course we're killing lots of trolls. But there's a Warcraft Secrets has a website now, right? So we meant to talk about this last week, but the Warcraft Secrets now has a website. Have you been on it?
I haven't been on it. I've been too busy being on the attunement site. So I actually stopped by briefly just to see what they had, and it's looking good. And I can't wait to see what secrets come from it. But it is warcraft-secrets.com. And for all you secret finders out there, check it out.
Awesome.
And then there's this very important part, because I know how fond you were of Zappy Boy. And this was pre-BFA launch too, but I wouldn't take it off the notes because I wanted to share it with you because I knew you would be very excited. Did you see how many new toons characters were made with the name Zappy Boy after the Old Soldier cinematic?
Yeah, there was a crap ton of Zappy Boys, and I'm so done with Zappy Boys. Like, I mean, it was fine for a little bit, but I think, I don't know.
We're not done with Zappy Boys. Hey, Tally even has an emote for Zappy Boys, which we've saved just for you.
Of course he does. Of course he does. What is the Zappy Boy emote? It's Tau Zappy or something. I'm sure I'll type it into chat here and... Oh, there it is. I was right. It's Tau Zappy. But yeah, so I mean, let's talk about the BFA launch. And, it's really funny because I was on the Starting Zone podcast and we were recording a pre-show, which would have aired on the 14th. And I made a funny joke because it was myself, Sloot, Spencer, and Jason. And I'm like, oh, so it's the 14th. So people are going to be listening to this podcast while the servers are down. And we are like, yeah, let's hope they aren't. And of course, servers were down for a number of hours. At least the high pop and, the good servers were down. So that was, fun and exciting. Yeah. I mean, it was to be expected, right? Like, we knew these things coming into it. It was a high pop server. But yeah, I mean, it happens, and it's totally fine. I mean, you should expect those things on a high pop server. But yeah. And of course, there's been more issues, and I know you've had a lot of fun issues, given that you're, our guild bank master person.
Yeah, actually, you were supposed to be reading instead of talking, and you missed that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was reading a little bit on the notes.
Yeah, the guild bank has been miserable. Not just sort of miserable, but really miserable. I can't get anything out of it during high peak hours. And high peak hours are defined as anything that has sunlight in them, and might only be exempt from about 2 to 4 a.m.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous. And I know we tweeted to Warcraft devs already that, I mean, it's a guild issue, it's a guild bank issue, it's an auction house issue. And if you're on a high pop server, it friggin' sucks. And I tweeted off to Warcraft devs, and people are, retweeting it and that kind of stuff. And so they're sort of aware. I mean, hopefully they're aware, and they don't all play on dead-ass servers. But I want to share a funny tweet here from somebody that I read. And it said, I whipped out my guild bank chest to deposit, and it despawned before I could place my 10 items in it. Like, that's how bad the lag is. Like, I tried to take something out of the guild bank the other day, and I'm like, I know it's laggy, so I will, pull it out, or try to pull it out into my inventory. I'll go grab a drink, do whatever, and it's still not there. It was like 5-10 minutes later. It was just absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, I mean,
actually, for our guild bank to spawn before I could get anything out of it. So, because I was trying to do a world quest on some food. This isn't the first time that happens, and I think what it is, from what I understand, is it's the old code. We've got a couple of things contributing to it. So every time that you take something out, it has to update the log.
Yep.
And the log for every character in the guild. So I think that's it, but it's not a new concept.
No, it's certainly not. I mean, it's old code. It's broken down things. We have new devs, and we'll see if Classic fixes things. I don't know, but let's talk about more economy stuff. So scrapping and the economy. You're really an auction house person. How does that all sort of play together? Is it worth scrapping things? People are asking me, should I scrap? I know my wife asked me, hey, should I scrap or should I disenchant things? What is the best thing to do right now? What should people be doing in terms of economy?
Well, as far as what has happened with Scrapbot is it's actually impacted the overall cost for the new raiders because it's dropping the market quicker because a lot of those supplies are getting out there. If you're an enchanter, I would enchant because you have to, or disenchant. You have to choose.
Okay, so enchanters should enchant and disenchant?
Yes, especially as you're building up the materials.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get enough from the scrapping to make it. The only thing is if you have patterns that need the expulsum, you need to scrap because that's the only source for them.
Yes.
And we found that out with the Dark Moon Fair cards. I think it's actually a very wise decision by Blizzard because it took what was a very, very expensive X-Pack for us in Legion,
mm-hmm.
And has cut the costs in a quarter because so much of those materials are getting out there sooner. We've also got an abundance of things we don't need, but I think especially it's helped drop those prices quicker than they would. So it's a choice. You can go back and forth. There's if you go to WoW Economy on Reddit, they actually talk about this and they'll give you the exact numbers and the pros and the cons. Mm-hmm. For me, I have to for the Dark Moon Fair cards.
Yeah, so those Darkmoon Fair cards, people have been talking about them, and typically they're quite strong going into the start of an expansion, as like they're mandatory for raiders. They're so damn good. How are they faring right now from what we've seen in Guild and what we've seen otherwise? Is it worth it for most players to pick up these Darkmoon Fair decks?
I would suggest, honestly, if they're best in slot, get them now. And that changed, just so you know. There were no decks that were any good when the launch started, and now they made some tweaks, and two of the decks are actually best in slot or near best in slot. Of course, that's the Tides for the healers, and then the DPS one, the tank, and the other one is not as good, and they're dropping fast. But the Dark Moon Fair cards characteristically sim higher as they go along, and they can continue to tweak them. And I like to use the Legion tanking trinket, mm-hmm. Because it was worthless until 7.1, and I made a killing. So if you can pick up one, if you can get one made, hang on to it. I always hang on to my Dark Moon Fair cards because you never know what they're going to do, and they're still balancing the classes.
I mean, that's absolutely true. There's going to be plenty of balancing, and my hope is we're not going to have another Candlegate scenario of like, this trinket's totally fine. We're not going to nerf it, and they nerf it, 2 days later, which was super frustrating. But I mean, some of the decks are really good, and I plan on picking up the healer one, obviously, or we'll have have them made through the guild. But yeah, I mean, use them. It takes up a trinket slot, right? Which means one less potential piece of gear you need to get from mythics or mythic pluses to get ready for raiding. So it's good. It's exciting. So going into that, I mean, the next big thing is Azerite power, right? So that's the thing that is one of the biggest things in BFA, right? Legendaries are gone, artifacts are gone, Azerite power is in. What are I can give you my thoughts, but what are your thoughts on Azerite power itself?
Well, it's still AP, so I look at it as AP.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the necklace traits were underwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Azerite gear.
The Azerite gear, so like the different potential slots in it.
The little wheel of choices is pretty gross, and I don't like having to have 2 full sets of gear because a lot of times I could share my gear on my priest, So when I switch specs, I've got to have 2 full sets. So I don't like that either. But I thought that the talent choices were pretty underwhelming. What do you think?
I've got a mix. So I've always liked these kind of grinds and Azurite power and that kind of stuff. So I do like the neck grind. That being said, I mean it scales pretty quickly. Where I think I'm at 16 or whatever now, and it's really tough to gain more, right? Unless you're doing like a ton of grinding content. And yeah, I mean the Azurite trit's a little underwhelming. Where yes, you can respec your gear, right? Like you can totally reforge your traits at the Azurite reforge person. That being said, though, like it's you have to go back to town and whatever, and you technically do need 2 sets of gear for the Azurite, right? Because I've got some for my tank now, I've got some for my healer spec, which is fine, just takes up more inventory spots. And yeah, we had different sets of gear in the past, but I was hoping it would be a little bit better. And I've always talked about this Azurite power system where it seems like an old version of those old prime glyphs, right? For those of you that are familiar with the Cataclysm prime glyph system that was unveiled at one of the BlizzCon, I don't know, like 10 years ago now. It's something similar to that, along with the glyph system, along with artifact power. So it's a bit of a mix of everything. It seems like the execution's a little lacking. It's just, I'm putting in all this work to unlock one more trait that's going to do like something super, super minor. It doesn't feel very rewarding. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the fix is for that, whether it's, more traits, unique traits, better stuff. I'm not sure. At this point, I mean, I think jury's out for me, but I'm curious as to, what other people are thinking as well. I play a Holy Paladin or I play my tank. Midgettes plays your disc, but I wonder what you guys as viewers think of Azurite Power so far, for those of you that haven't played beta. But yeah, so the other fun stuff was class balance, right? I mean, I did some PvP, and that was fun. I think my wife was, somebody was chasing her and she was leveling, and of course she killed like 3 people when she was leveling on war mode. And the class balance seems a little wonky, where like a 110 can kill like 5 120s, no problem. Right, just because of how scaling works, and it seems a little borked, to be honest. But at the same time, it's sort of a different power shift where like you've got really good epics for this level, but then they've got greens for this level. So yeah, it might be easier to kill them, but at the same time, should you realistically be able to kill 3 or 4 more people solo? Maybe if you're a really, really good player. But
I think it was Blizzard trolling us, to be honest.
No.
So because that you should be ganking equal level people instead of picking on the little guys. So
oh, I see what you mean.
Little guys more powerful so they could kick your tail. That's what I think. I thought of that this afternoon. Just so you know, just so we're really clear, I made it to I think 116 with the server challenges with war mode before they started showing up in my zone, and I got killed once, and I said, okay, I'm done with this, and I've had war mode off ever since.
Yeah, like when I was leveling with war mode, I was in a group for the first night, and it was no problem. I don't think we saw a single person, maybe one, and then we just killed that one person. But otherwise, in our leveling system or leveling time, we didn't see a single horde person. I did see them during the foothold. Again, I killed them, and I was soloing there as a tank. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really have any issues with it. I'm really hesitant to stay to put on war mode right now, because a lot of the questing that I do in world quests is right now solo, because that's what I have time for. I don't have the time, and I can't waste everybody's time if I have to take a break or deal with the kid or whatever. So I do solo stuff, and the rewards aren't that much better to risk it potentially. But I know at some point I will turn war mode back on and hopefully go farm some horde and get those bounty achievements and everything else.
Well, you have fun with that. Scan even offered to let me be his pocket healer, and I told him to have a good time, because there's a lot of good inks apparently doing that.
Yeah.
But there's the other part of that, and there are still some tuning and GCD issues. What do you think they're going to do with that going forward?
The GCD stuff, I don't know. It's still really weird, because I was doing I'm still not used to it, even having played beta and having played 8.0 in rating. There's still times where I'm like, okay, I've popped my cooldown and healing. Oh, I missed a cooldown because of GCDs. That's a huge waste. And then I don't realize that I haven't popped my cooldown, because I just need to reset part of my UI as well, because I'm not tracking my wings well enough. But I've gone into this habit of I can pop my cooldowns whenever, and it's really weird, and it feels clunky still. Yes, they brought some things back where some personals or whatever are not on the cooldown, but even like my self heal as a protection paladin, it's still on GCD, so it's a little frustrating to try to heal myself. But I don't know where they're going to go with it. I know the philosophy long term is just removing most cooldowns from players and um, think of having just one cooldown, right? Like you have one cooldown, that's it, where each ability should matter a little bit more and you're not spamming the crap out of everything to get players more sort of in line. I don't know. Yeah,
Well, we'll see where it goes.
yeah, we'll see.
I know at least a couple of classes out there are hoping for some major changes, but
Oh, for
we'll
sure.
see what happens.
Yeah, and
So
I
what
mean,
do you think? Go
so
ahead.
yeah, and I know when people are leveling, and I've heard this from I think Aelid and Driaz, like as they were getting to like 117, 118, you're so squishy. Like even as a tank, I was crazy squishy during those high levels, right? Like it's really tough. Things beat on you really easily, and if you can't, or if you can't just take the damage and you can't kite, then it's really tough, right? Because you're potentially not a very mobile class, and you're just sort of sitting there. Things are beating on you. They're hitting your spells back, and have fun trying to kill things. So it definitely slows things down, but groups were advantageous in questing, I thought.
I think they were great, and honestly, the loss of the 10% buff wasn't too bad. You have to do all of the quest lines anyway
Hmm.
to open up all of the attunements, and I really enjoyed a lot of the stories. But let's before we get into the zones and stuff, let's talk a little bit about the island expeditions and the war campaign.
I've loved it. The Island Expeditions, they're a little frustrating. I did a bunch of them with two of our guildies, Lethor and Aelid. The other day, I tanked them, Aelid healed, and Lethor DPS. So it was the proper trinity. We did them on heroics, and as you're sort of learning how they work, it can be a little frustrating. And part of it is I'm not used to losing. Like I'm a very competitive person, and when these it's a heroic version. Like come on, this is heroic rating. This is beneath me. And I don't mean to sound elitist, but like yes, I'm under geared. At the same time, it is new content, but I'm just not used to having to work so hard in a heroic level anything. And I mean, they were tougher. We did complete, I don't know, 5, 6 heroic islands the other day, and they got some pets, and we finished off our weekly. But I liked them. I liked them overall. Some of it was a little missed, partly because we couldn't find the enemy NPCs. Part of the content in Island Expeditions is killing the other team because it slows them down, and there's a lot of different like cheese strats that players have been talking about, and I'll let you guys know a couple of the cheese strats that I haven't tested but I've heard. Number one, a healer can keep the entire group busy while the other two players go farm stuff. So you kite them around the entire island and they do nothing. The other one was you tag enemies, like a big group of enemies, and then you train them. Basically means like you run them on top of the enemy team and they do damage to the ads. And because you've got the tag, they can kill them and you get the tag for it, right? So it keeps them busy that way as well. But Island Expeditions, I thought they're really fun. I haven't done the PvP ones yet. I'm looking forward to those, as well as the Mythic versions. They're fun. They're more casual content. You don't need a group of 5 people. I like the variants and different little quests you can do of get this torch for this guy, get a key for this guy, break so and so out. They're nice little quests, and I enjoy the different strategy to it. Some of the enemies are a little frustrating with how long they take to kill. I hate crocodiles so much. I hate them so much in those damn islands. But I've loved it. I loved the expedition so far. War campaign has been pretty awesome. Great storyline so far. I haven't finished off the Kulturas storyline as Alliance, but I will hopefully tonight. What about you? Have you done any?
Pardon me.
Have you done any of the expeditions or anything like that?
I finished all of mine so that I could get the 2,500 AP. And I think they're a lot of fun. The only thing I would say about them, and I didn't get any pets, so that's going to be my major complaint. How do you get these pets?
I think they're just more random drops from expeditions. I did normals and I got a pet, I'm pretty sure.
So why is it that you're getting pets and I'm not? I would like to discuss this in detail.
I don't know.
You're the raider, I'm the pet collector. Let's talk.
I wonder if I can just give you the pets, because like, if you want them more, I'll just send you my pets.
No, I get them eventually. I haven't even had time to look at them.
Yeah, well, I mean, it might be a higher chance for them to drop from higher difficulties. I am not sure, but yeah. But go ahead.
Well, I was laughing because one of the guys I raid with came to me and he said, "Midgettes, you need to get to Revered in 7th Legion." And I said, "Well, I know that." And he says, "No, you need to." And I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, because there's a pet behind it. I said, see, if you guys would just tell me that, I would get all this stuff done.
There's a pet here. It's the
But
carrot.
I'm really enjoying the only thing I think about the island expeditions, because I queued most of mine this afternoon because I wanted to get them finished. And we had a couple of challenges. One, we had one guy decide he just didn't want to do it and left. And then the other one, it was a hunter and 2 healers. And that one was interesting. We did better than I thought we would. So maybe a little bit of selection in that.
So you pug
don't
these?
Have 3 healers. Yeah.
You have a 800-person community, and you decided to pug these.
Yes.
So when the person left, I'm just going to stop there. But when the person left the island, was there anything else? Did you get a replacement, or are you just stuck with 2 people now?
No, it was 2 people. We still won.
Oh, that sucks.
So I don't know if they lower the difficulty, but it did take a lot longer.
Interesting.
And just so you know, with that 800-person guild, I looked online, and I even asked, and most everybody was in dungeons.
Oh, I imagine if if Midget said, hey, does anybody want to help run a dungeon for Midgets or an island expedition? People would be like, yeah, me. Or at least they better.
No, but they were all busy.
Oh, yeah, sure. If you say so.
I just queued up. See, I can queue at the table, and then I can head to my next quest. And because I was really focused on getting the quest done. So, but Sundays are my day off, too.
That's true.
So don't give me a hard time. Where are we at? So what's your favorite zone, Sparty?
Tirisgard I really liked. I don't know. Nazmir is really pretty. I mean, I did a bunch of them in beta, too. But by far, my favorite quest chain is the Alliance Foothold in Zul'Zadar, I believe, where you are this giant fire elemental and you are just murdering goblins. It is the most hilarious and most awesome quest because my wife and I were doing it together and we couldn't stop laughing. And I wonder if the Horde have an equivalent, but like it was so friggin' awesome to just steamroll all of these goblins. I loved it.
There's a lot of the ones where you're a shark. They have one where you have, if you remember, did you ever go do the night when Deathwing came?
I can't remember.
They have a similar one. That's the one where you had 3 different stories of how they killed Deathwing.
I can't remember.
One of my favorite quests in game. They had the similar one in Storm Song, and it was fun. They have a lot of the little ones. I'm afraid though mine are always favored. I always favorite Nessingway.
Oh yeah, the Nessingway quest, yeah.
I just loved him. He's my favorite person NPC. I love the dwarves.
I haven't found him in BFA. Is he here?
Yes.
Why haven't I
He's here.
Oh, okay, he's probably in some side quests.
You didn't do the side quest.
No, I haven't done all those. There's so many side quests.
I was working on the side quest. And then as far as the favorite zone was Dressfar by far. And I absolutely love the dungeon for Dressfar. What's it called? I was going to remember it and I forgot it. But do you know when you go up the stairs in there, the eyes follow you?
What?
So the Dressfar dungeon, which one is it?
I can't recall which one it is.
But anyway, it's the Manor one.
Oh, the Wakehurst Manor. Yeah, that's a great dungeon.
Yes. It's my favorite. It's awesome. When you go up the stairs, there's paintings on the stairs. And as you go by, the eyes follow you.
See, like that's the kind of little stuff people don't realize because they're all rushing through dungeons. But when you stop to take a step back and really appreciate some of the really cool stuff Blizzard has done, like that zone was really, really creepy. I don't know what the mythology is with those, reindeer antler things, but like that stuff is terrifying. Like, I've seen some horror movies, and like I need to watch horror movies in the daytime because I'm a wuss, and like that was a really terrifying zone.
It was my favorite storyline, and I couldn't wait because I did it in beta, and it was my favorite then too. I couldn't wait for the cinematics, and the cinematics were really made it different.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But we've talked about. I don't want to get too much in there. We don't want to spoil it for people who haven't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten to 120.
Yep.
What should we be doing now?
So the first thing you do is once you've completed, your 120 and you unlock World Quest, you start 120 basically being overwhelmed with how much friggin' shit there is to do. Excuse my French there, but there's so much to do. right? Like there's just world quests everywhere, and you still have all these side quests everywhere, and you've got island expeditions, and you've got your daily heroic, and you can't even queue for your daily heroic because you're not even high enough item level. But there's so much to do, and so you have to start somewhere. So I guess the first thing we talk about is island expeditions, right? So you should be doing island expeditions, and I believe you need to gather 40,000 Azurite for the week. So it's a weekly quest. You get 2,500 AP. So depending on which difficulty you do it on, you'll get more or less AP, so it means fewer expeditions. But that is something you should be doing every single week to, to make it easy. Beyond that, I mean, you start heroics, you start your world quests. There was plenty of gear that I was getting that were upgrades from world quests themselves. It was good, and then you get into heroics. I mean, initially we weren't high enough to queue for heroics, but we just, undermanned them or hit lower item level, and you run into them essentially, right? My wife wasn't high enough for the prison dungeon we did earlier today, and we just had her run in, right? So because she couldn't queue for it, and it was fine. Beyond that, I mean, mythic dungeons are your next big thing you should be doing. So most, I guess, sort of semi-hardcore raiders at this point, they've already leveled to 120. They've got their things unlocked. They're now doing mythic dungeons. Most, I guess, semi-hardcore raiders, the average raider out there, average mythic raider out there, will have completed their 8 to 10 dungeons this week, depending on how much rep you did in terms of unlocking. Well, really like 9 dungeons. If you've unlocked King's Rest yet. But the big thing is maximizing Champions of Azeroth, or so maximize reputations. And one of those reputations are the Champions of Azeroth, and that's really the one that progresses your neck storyline and gives you more item levels to your neck. So you're getting Azurite power, which empowers your neck, makes it stronger, gives you higher item levels every time you get higher. But at the same time, you gain 15 item levels straight off the bat once you complete a reputation chain for Champions of Azeroth. So that's a primary rep you should be going after. One of the best things to do is get a contract. So these contracts are great. And I mean, even though they seem really small, essentially what it does is you apply this contract for a reputation like Champions of Azeroth, and every time you complete a world quest, you get 10 reputation and 11 if you're an OP human like myself, and it adds to the extra, rep that you're doing. And for someone that loves doing world quests, this really adds up, and it's going to add to your character, and you can do contracts for other factions as well. So for instance, if you want to, do the Turtolans faction, same thing. You'll get a contract for those guys, and you'll level it up through doing quests as well as more world quests and things like that. So those are some of the things you'll be doing. Besides that, there's so many storylines to finish. There's lots of side quests to do and lots of achievements and the exploring, the Pathfinders thing we're going to talk about in a second. The Pride of Kulturas, the Siege of Borealis, right? Like that's for Alliance side because we're mostly an Alliance podcast. That's really the big storyline that you should be finishing with Jane and everything else. It does lead you to a number of dungeons. I'm about halfway through this quest line right now, and then I'll be unlocking the dungeon. But it's really good. Like everyone says it's an amazing storyline. The cinematics, Taryn Gregory and Christy, and the storytelling has been fantastic. The voiceovers are great. It's been awesome. So those are some of the things you should be focusing right now as sort of your average player out there. And I know you had a couple tools you wanted to talk about that you introduced both to the guild and that Wowhead's unlocked, or sorry, that they've released.
Because and let's be real clear. What should I be doing now if I want to go to raid is probably the better statement. Okay. Because you need to be working on those. If I wasn't going to be raiding, I'd be working on the turtles because I want to open up all my professions. Mm-hmm. And actually, I am working on the turtles, so they're my priority. But they have some attunements and they have some gated content, yep. So you have to finish. And one of the things you didn't discuss, because I didn't put it on the notes, was the war campaign. You have to get the war campaign to a certain level that is in combination with the 7th Legion. Yeah. And then that opens up the King's Rest dungeon.
Yeah, so that's the last dungeon you may unlock, King's Rest. So I believe it's 7,000 out of 12,000 reputation for Honored. And yeah, I mean, you'll do that through the reputations, and a lot of them are done on the Horde Islands. So almost all of those quests give 7th Legion rep. And yeah, that should be one of your main priority reputations because you do want to complete the war campaign, which gives you more followers, more missions, and all that kind of stuff, as well as unlocking that dungeon. And when you have all these dungeons unlocked, well, then you can, get gear and get ready for raiding. We do have 3 weeks, right? So that's roughly, 30 mythic dungeons to do. But yeah, I mean, do all those things. Again, depends on how much time you have, but you may need to prioritize, how you spend your time. Whether it's okay, I've got a couple dungeons here, I'll do a quest here, do some world quests here. Or at least prioritize the more important world quests that are either champions of Azeroth. Those ones you should always be doing. Alternatively, ones like I prefer the ones that just go there, kill this big elite, and that's it, right? Rather than like go collect a bunch of dinky little things and spend 5 minutes here. I'd rather choose to spend my time a little bit more efficiently with some things.
Well, me too. And the tool that you were talking about, Wowhead has some great tools out there.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually have an attunement tool. And I was going to give you the actual page. He gave you the page to the notes about it. The actual page to get to the attunement tool is there. And it will pull up your character and tell you where you are in the process of opening all the dungeons and what you need. And it's just like the flying one, which will also the Pathfinder one, which we'll discuss here momentarily. But that one will help you understand what you need to be working on, and what you need to get done to open up this next content, because they do have gated content.
Yeah, and I prefer that, and I talked about it the other day with somebody, but I prefer sort of this method, and we'll talk about why. I mean, the burnout and the initial front-loaded content. I prefer some kind of gating between these things, and there's enough of a carrot, and if there were pets between every rep, I'm sure midgets would go really quickly to them. But I prefer this sort of kind of gated content where players can't control themselves really, like where we're unhealthy little nerds that will just devour everything as quickly as we can because we have the free time. And there's, not necessarily anything wrong with that, but we'll chat about that in a sec. Yeah, and so there's the attunement tool, and there was the Pathfinder tool.
The Pathfinder tool, which I actually, I think I took off, but it's wowhead.com/fly.
Mm-hmm.
So for those that are going to want to be we're all going to be wanting to work on flying, but
yeah.
That's going to give you where you are and it's long time. They're going to, I'm sure there's a Pathfinder 1 and a Pathfinder 2 before you'll even see it.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, and one of the reasons I'm a little behind everybody is I get sidetracked. So I've already played with the archaeology and I was off fishing and I've been off doing that because that's what I enjoy in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch, when I first start leveling and I'm in Death Jesters, I watch all you guys take off, and for the first night I try to keep up, and then I get annoyed the second night, and then the third night I decide you guys are going to get there before me no matter what I do, and I quit caring and I go fishing, and I have a much better time leveling.
Well, to be fair though, I mean, you were you were up there with the rest of us, and you were out gearing me at some point too, right? Like I only caught up to you yesterday in terms of gear.
Yeah, I haven't had any sleep this week. But part of that's because of the bank. I blame the guild bank for a lot of things right now. But one of the things that I know for me, and when we have more time and we've been doing quests and we're at max gear and we don't have 1,000 things to do, it's much easier to be more welcoming to the new people coming in. And
for sure.
For our guilds, we have so many new people coming in every day. So I want to talk about it a little bit. I just joined a new guild, or I just started with a new team. How do I get to know people? How do I get involved? Especially in this 3 to 4 week period where there's really no raiding and smaller groups.
So it's tough. I mean, you're in a new group or on a new team or in a new company, and you're the new person. So how do you sort of say hello to everybody, right? Say, hey, do you want to run a group? Like, how do you do that, right? It's so challenging. And I saw like a Facebook video the other day of like, have we forgotten how to make friends in all the the phones that we're stuck on and staring with? And it's simply just by talking to people, right? People tend to often run with the same groups. Here in Death Jesters we have Zeros to Heroes as well, which is a huge community. But we try to, or we not try to, but we tend to prioritize the Death Jesters players first because we need to do it within our raid team. That being said, though, it's just opening it up to everybody else as well. So whether it's expeditions or islands, or dungeons, just whisper people, right? Like whisper people to ask if they want to do something, right? And that's something that they ask that I've always had of other players. When I've talked to a lot of the Zeros to Heroes players, I've said, hey, sometimes the best thing isn't just saying, hey, is anybody free for this? It's just whispering somebody. You know, I may be doing stuff and people might say, oh, or asking guild chat, hey, is anyone free for a dungeon? And I'll just be pedaling and doing my own thing. But if someone were to whisper me and say, hey, can you come heal or tank this dungeon? I'd probably say yeah. Or I'll say I'm crazy busy, but I'd rather have somebody ask. And I hate that some people think I'm too busy to run dungeons with them. Like that's not the kind of vibe that I want to, portray. And even some of the Zero to Heroes guys have asked me. I think I did Waycrest with them. Like as soon as I leveled to 120, and they said, "Hey, do you want to come heal a dungeon?" And I'm like, "Yeah, for sure." I was happy to, and it was all Zeros to Heroes guys. I think from Team Murgle. I can't recall which one. But that's part of it, right? Just it's whispering people, it's saying hello, it's that kind of stuff. It's being that positive person out there. Iron Dan made a funny comment here of like, well, midgets, thought everybody was busy, but people's guild chat awareness is really, really bad. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just because everyone's so busy and so into what they're doing. But you tend not to miss whispers, right? Like I may miss some guild chat stuff because I'm tabbed out or doing whatever. But the best thing to do is just whisper people, right? Just chat with them, say hello, but ultimately go outside of your little realm. I'm really proud with how Death Jesters and Zeros to Heroes have intermingled. There is no like cliquish kind of stuff going on. It's everyone's doing stuff with everybody else, right? And yeah, we have our own raid teams and we have people without raid teams, but we're so welcoming with everybody else that it's such an amazing community. And it's crazy how much it's growing here in BFA. Like I'm adding, 4 or 5 more people to Discord every single day, and the community is over 800 people. That's unique people that are active right now between the two guilds, between the the 2 other alt guilds as well. But it's crazy. Like we had 2,500 characters, something like that, almost 3,000 characters soon.
Yeah. between the alt guilds and Death Jesters and Zeros to Heroes, we have over 2,500 characters.
It's crazy.
It is crazy, and it's a lot of fun. There's never a dull moment. And I know another example of is to jump on Discord into the public channels, get a feel for whatever your voice comms are. Ours is Discord. Yep. Jump on Discord and I'll go sit in some of the public channels, and, people will start filtering in and we start talking and we get to know different people. And that's a good way too.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be more visible because of the weekend team, because I tend to enjoy being in Azeroth, and talking messes that up.
So you know what? That's actually a really good ask of our players and our teams. So typically the etiquette is of like if somebody's in a dungeon group or if they're doing whatever, they're probably doing their own thing right now, and you may not want to talk over them. That being said, though, maybe we should use more of our public voice channels, because we have a number of voice groups there, whether it's the Jackalope Bar or Family Fun Night or whatever the general channel, and just hang out there to chat, right? Like that might be a better hangout place to get to know people than people sort of congregating in various dungeon channels. That's actually a good idea from just now.
Well, and it's tough because especially if you're trying to focus on something. Mm-hmm. So you make that distinction, and we've asked that when we have people down in the raid channels that's not the social area, and sort of kind of keep them up top. With so many people and people coming in and out, it can be frustrating, especially if you're working on some of these new mythic dungeons. But anyway,
yeah. And so, you know what? I wanted to get a quick little tangent. Have you done the turtle quests?
If you're talking about the cool match ones and the ones where you blow up things, yes. I like those.
Yeah, so the ones I've done, so there's 3 that I've done now. So we had Kirin Tor ones in the past, and we had the barrel thing, which I never really liked. But we have the turtle matching one, which I think there's an add-on. DBM probably has an add-on for it at this point, for matching them, and I like the little shell one. There's also the run the little turtle in the maze one, which bugged out for me the first time. That one was okay. It's a little long and it's a little slow because I want to go fast. But apparently turtles are slow.
Slow down.
And then
Monk.
and then there is the what is it? The other one where the turtles are running off into the water and you need to shoot down the seagulls and the fish that are trying to eat them.
Yes. I've done all 3. Okay. I like all 3 of them. Now the one where you're shooting things, and I've had trouble with that on most of the vehicle bosses, is getting that arched shot to not be weird. I had a lot of problems with that in a couple of places in Legion, and I think it's the setup, because other places it's just fine. But they're fun. I enjoy them.
Yeah,
What
no,
is your feedback?
I like them. I think they're cute. I'm not going to be that cynical person of like, hey, I'm this Titan Slayer, and here I am saving the turtles, and then I'm
Save the
level.
turtles.
I,
Aren't you going to be a turtle if they become an allied race?
maybe a Ninja Turtle. I don't know. I've always loved Ninja Turtles.
You do know if the Turtellans become an allied race, you guys have lost me because I'm leveling that one from 20, and I'm gonna have one to go with my gnome.
Are you not going to be a Volpera? Because I mean, I saw them.
Well, no, I think they're gonna be horde.
You think
I
so?
think if they bring those two races, I think Volpera is going to be horde, unfortunately, because I might have to go have a horde just for that one. Yes.
Okay. Well, what a way we've come from Legion, Titan Slayers to saving turtles, and now level 120 being killed by two crows. Thanks scaling. But yeah, so going into the last section of the podcast, in terms of the leadership lounge and expectations of a team, every team has its own expectations, going into rating, right? We haven't really set our own yet, but whether they be item level or Azurite traits or how many Mythic Pluses you complete, Medivh spreadsheet. Hopefully everybody has seen that one at this point. I'll link it again for you guys there in chat. But I mean, it's a pretty robust tool for what you can do. It's something I reference still because it gives me a reminder of, yeah, this rep has this thing, because it just has those Wowhead links really handy. But yeah, I mean, your teams need to look at what's best for for our team, whether it's a Zeros to Hero team or a DJ team or whatever your your guild is. Where do we sit in terms of expectations for everybody else? Do we want a 345 item level? Is that reasonable for everybody? Well, what if somebody was away the entire week? Are they going to be able to finish those things in time, right? If they don't have like 345 item level, should they be buying BOEs? Well, what if they don't have the gold, right? Like, what are the expectations of your team? And those are kinds of things you should brainstorm and talk about, during your guild meetings, or your leadership team should talk about them. We've actually set up some really good expectations for our own team, which I'm very, very happy with, and I'll be doing a coach's corner in terms of expectations and what does DJ sort of expect, because most of my time these days when I talk to potential applicants is telling them not to apply because they are not ready. It just they don't know the level of commitment outside of rating that it requires. And I don't know, there was this one guy that applied. A quick little anecdote, he said, hey, I know I don't have any logs. I rated at a high level back in vanilla, but I'm a master's level video gamer. I'm like, okay, well, what the hell does that mean, master's level? Like, do you have to be grandmaster to raid? But it's tough, right? People don't know what is expected of raiders at this level. So the other big thing is item level versus effort, right? Like, well, how much, like, should everyone be? What if I don't have the item level, right? What if I get the item level, but I don't put in the effort? Like, what if I get really lucky with stuff or buy all the stuff through BOEs? Should I be doing Mythic Plus? Does it matter? I think every team needs to sort of set those expectations and goals at some point soon, as you sort of see, okay, well, some people have luck, some people don't have luck with personal loot. Some things are tradable. I got two of my pieces that were traded to me because the other person didn't need the gear, which was awesome. But I guess on that note, if you guys are doing Mythic Plus groups where you can trade gear, my suggestion is use similar armor types. So we typically, will have 3 leather and 2 plate, or 3 plate and 2 leather, or whatever. Sorry, clothies, you're out of luck. Or you can just, bring 2 plate, a tank healer, and then 3 clothies. And that makes it a little bit easier in terms of trading gear and trading that kind of stuff to sort of maximize those things.
Oh, you mean we don't have just personal loot? I sort of like this personal loot thing. Just saying, I don't have to worry about it.
Oh yeah, but I mean, if things aren't an upgrade, or if they're like a small upgrade. So for instance, Lethor, the Death Knight app that is in our guild, that cloak was a slight upgrade for him because of the socket, but I still had a 320 or 325 cloak, and it did have my best stats, so he gave it to me, right? So because the socket doesn't really count in terms of item level, it was the same item level as he had, so he was able to trade it to me, and that makes it awesome.
And it has that 5 level item level differential.
I think so. I can't recall. Yeah, so I mean, it allows you to trade that kind of stuff, which is great because it allows you to spread the wealth a little bit.
Well, and there's so much more, and we talk about, I was kidding that because I do. When I start out the X-Pack, and this will be my 3rd X-Pack with Death Jesters, I'm like, I'm going to keep up with them. And that first night, and boy, was Blizzard in trouble, because it took me an hour longer to get on. I was so annoyed than all of you. And I'm like, they're going to get ahead of me. They're going to get ahead of me. So I'm stressing and trying to catch up. And then I get mad the next night I can't keep up. I can't. I mean, I'm still working on getting all this stuff unlocked, and you've got players on your team, and that's the difference. This is the difference. It's not just expectations. It's what your peers are doing. You've got a group of players on your team that are already revered and exalted. Some of them have two characters fully leveled and also fully at, various stages of,
Mm-hmm.
revered and exalted. And that's the difference. It's not just the expectations, it's the player base. And they're really cute with me because they'll go, midgets, there's a pet over here. um,
See, they're
but
thinking about you. Isn't that
yeah,
awesome? Like that
they
warms
are,
my
they're so
heart. Like,
sweet.
hey, let's do something nice for midgets, right? Like, let's bring her along to a dungeon. She may not have all the time to do a dungeon. Maybe she's busy, bitching out Blizzard because of the stupid guild bank stuff, and she's staying up till 2 a.m. Let's run midgets through a dungeon to catch her up, right? Like that's awesome, and that makes me very happy and very proud to be part of this community. But yeah, I mean, going into that kind of stuff, we have our own little audit page to sort of track how everybody's doing. And I think at this point, I'm the bar for what everybody should be beating, partly because I think part of what you said is the realization um, that I am not 21 anymore. I don't have all this time. I can't play all night. I can't take the time off work because I need to work and I've got the family stuff. And even if I stayed home all day, I'd still have a little kid running around here that wants to, go up on Daddy's leg and watch and look at the horsies on the computer, right? And watch me play. And now she understands I've got a mouse near my keyboard and she wants to play that. So it's tough. It's tough to realize that, but at the same time, we have so much time. We have so much friggin' time before rating opens that I'm not worried at all. Even me, who has very limited time to play, a couple hours each night, I'm not worried in the least that I'll be able to keep up with the rest of my team, right? Maybe not the first week, but it's going to taper off because they can't get that far ahead of me, right? Like, yeah, we're all going to have exalted reps and we're all going to have 340 plus gear going to rating, so I'm not too worried.
Yeah, but fortunately, they're already exalted in the rep that we need for the professions.
Good. I mean, that's going to help us.
So, one other thing I want to get out there is one of the things that you guys use as sort of a gauge of how the team is doing is WoW Audit. And if you guys haven't checked out WoW Audit, it's at wowaudit.com. There's another rendition of the same idea, but basically it uses the Blizzard API and it populates where your team is on rep, their neck level, what gear they have, all of those things, and it gives you a real good how many world quests they did every day, how many dungeons, and
Mm-hmm.
those are really good things too.
Yeah, and I mean, some guilds may want to set metrics for, hey, make sure you do this many world quests or this many dungeons, or mythic pluses, when those are up, and those are really good trackers to be like, how am I doing compared to the rest of the team? Right? Because you do want to set that bar as well sometimes. But yeah, I mean, one of the good things now we have a fair number of apps and members. When you're going into an expansion like this, everyone pretty much starts on a clean slate. And one of the best things you can do as teammates is include a lot of these players, right? You have new apps, new players. You're getting to know everybody. You're hanging around there in the dungeon channels. It's just talk to people, right? Like talk to them, bring them into dungeons, invite them. It's gone vice versa. I've got to know quite a few of the new apps now, and that's more of what I want to be doing, and just doing more dungeons with them. And in some sense, it's tough to see how good of a raider somebody is through Mythic Dungeons, but right now, when a lot of it is new to players and you see how quickly they adapt or quickly they adjust, it's also a potentially good indicator of how players will do in raids because of these Mythic Dungeons. We're all under-geared and we're all, trying to work really hard here, and how nimble are players when they adapt, and, can they shift and can they use the cooldowns and communicate and that kind of stuff and learn on the fly. And luckily, we've had a number of really experienced beta players that are guiding some of our guys through dungeons, whether it's Zorania or a couple others that know the mechanics, and they just go, "Here's their explanation. This is probably the best strat to use. Let's go." So it's been a good process so far, right? And I know you've started your own weekend raid team now, which is awesome. Do you want to talk about your raid team really quick?
Sure. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because it's not really a team yet. And that's the challenge. We were going to do this right before the launch of BFA.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have all of these new people and they've come in and signed up, and so we didn't have the ability to go in having expectations. And we've got people at all scales of the levels. We have people who have just barely started normals or barely rated at all or hasn't been rated for years to, some of the 1111 mythic raiders that have their second toon wanting to play.
Hmm.
And trying to get them to get together and have those expectations is a little more challenging. So right now it's just a group of people that are interested in the team, because until we have a roster and all of the people that we're going to have, we're going to be trying to do things together and whatnot and trying to close that gap. And one of the things I keep, because people will say, well, Midgettes, what are we doing with the team? Well, we've got to have a first raid. We've got to see who shows up, who's going to be on the roster. In the meantime, here's some goals to be working for. And then we're all going to go in and normals and see how it goes. But honestly, Sparty, we probably have enough for 2 teams.
Oh, absolutely. Like we just keep getting more and more players, and we're trying to deliberately grow the community guild and the community raid team. So it's not just teams that are set up to fail, but teams that are set up to succeed, like this weekend team, right? It's slow, deliberate growth. It's putting the right people on the right seats on the bus, as you often like to say, and going from there. So the best things that a lot of you guys can do as teammates, as players, is get to know each other, do dungeons together. Like people are dragging along Roshi, one of our old retired and like old school best druids, to dungeons and making him tank and heal and that kind of stuff. And it's great to see a lot of those bonds here. Just the other day, I had I had 3 vanilla paladins that are still in my guild log on again, and they play, sporadically through the expansions. And it was great to chat with them because I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you since, ZG, 13 years ago, or the other guy I haven't seen since Burning Crusade, and the other, I mean, we're all like Facebook friends, so we know each other, but it's cool to see each other in game as well for new expansions. So it's a really good feelings.
It is. And it's been a fun X-Pack. We've had some challenges. I think that for me, I'm going to enjoy getting past all of the things I have to do because there's so many things I want to do. I don't like the midnight salmon. I hope they up the drop rate. I sat from fish for an hour and a half with Alid, and we got 9. We're going to need 5 for feast.
So fishing party? I remember fishing parties.
Fishing party is coming. The archaeology is... It was more like the original archaeology, without all of the renditions in between, and I can just stop and do a quick node while I'm there and doing a world quest and go on. And I'll be glad when you guys have all your stuff and I can do that because I'm really looking forward to it.
Good. Well, I know we appreciate all the guild bank, work stuff, persevering that you do. But let's wrap up here about initial thoughts about BFA. What are you want to go first?
Sure. I think that it is for storyline and cinematics and all of the side quests and the cute little, Thousand Acre Wood area and all of those things. It's my kind of expansion. I have all kinds of new pets, new secrets. I'm really excited about it. I'm a little more cautious because I'm surrounded by a bunch of a raiding community. And I'm a little more cautious that it's the things like class balance and the GCD issue and the content is going to be enough to keep the people who have already got 2 toons at 120 busy. So that's sort of where I'm at.
Yeah, I sort of laugh that this is your kind of expansion. Mine is guild bank issues, of course, right? I mean, aside from those, it's
yeah. I want you to know that if there was a developer that whoever wrote this code for the guild bank, if I could have punched them in the nose a couple of times, I probably would have, because my mailbox, I've got 60 mails in there now just from cleaning it out last night, and I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning just so I could get things into the guild bank, which took me 2 hours that normally would only take about half hour.
Oh, that dev doesn't work for Blizzard anymore. He's busy trying to promote Classic now.
Which is probably good because I'd like to punch him in the nose.
So my thoughts, I mean, I've got mixed reactions. Overall, I like the expansion. It's got a good overall theme. The music I'm not too fond of, and that's a small part of it. Storytelling is fantastic, and I did forget to mention this, but they did bring some of these. Did I mention? I can't remember. Some of the Star Wars developers and people that played Star Wars. whatever, the Star Wars MMO, amazing storytelling, amazing leveling experience. And I thought they brought a lot of that into this expansion. I mean, still some bugs, but overall a good one. There are some concerns in terms of class balance and that kind of stuff, and AP. I question whether there's enough for raiders. I mean, I do like it overall. I think it's a great one. It's in sort of in that honeymoon phase from Legion, and we're all trying to do a ton of things right now. Where there's 3 weeks of stuff to do. My big concern for raiders and even my own players is don't burn out, right? Like there's so much stuff to do. I don't want my players burning out through world quests or just spamming the crap out of things. There's so many things to do in terms of attunements and rep and professions. Pace yourself, enjoy it, right? Don't feel rushed. It is still only like the first week hasn't finished yet, right? Like we still have tonight and tomorrow to do so much more. Then you have 2 more weeks. And some people, don't get me wrong, they love that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed it when I was younger. Now I can't. Like, and I wouldn't enjoy it either. But pace yourself. You have plenty of time to get ready for raiding. But enjoy it. I mean, continue building those team bonds, and I think those are more important than anything else at this point, right? Take the time, enjoy it. When you go to Waycrest Manor, look at the eyes that are looking at you and following you around, like the little things that Blizzard has included, right? Whether it's the Winnie the Pooh stuff or whatever, or the Turtle quests, right? Enjoy it all, take it all in. Enjoy the cinematics, the storytelling, and obviously, tweet Warcraft devs if there's issues. But I think that's it. So let's wrap it up for the evening. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good night. Be excellent to each other. And as always, live your life heroically. Have a fantastic evening.